Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Jay Norris. Jay is the co-founder and CEO at Guest. Jay, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me, Mustafa.
So, a brief background about yourself, what you've been up to prior to Guest.
Oh, prior to Guest. Wow, what a great story. No, I'm just kidding. It's a long one.
Tell us all.
My background is in the music business. I started here a while back working with recording artists, for a guy named Clive Davis, who had a platform called Arista Records. It's no longer around, but it was pretty strong. It came out, I was responsible for artists like Biggie Smalls, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, TLC, numerous artists that came out in like the late 90s, early 2000s. My particular role there was being known as the innovative marketer, or the tastemaker, they call me, or the influencer. They kind of mixed these words up back then. And so my job was really to develop cultural currency for these artists who at the time, you wouldn't know it, right? They had no name. They didn't have a following. I look at it as like they were very synonymous to these new cultural, digital, social influencers that come out and nobody knows who they are until they have 10 million followers. And you're like, wow, okay, now I pay attention. So the music industry, my job was to actually cultivate local cultural currency for these artists if they didn't hit big on the radio. So one day, this guy came to the office, and everybody in the marketing department was like, wow, there's this interesting gentleman that's showing up today, and everybody's kind of scared to go to this meeting because this guy has something very interesting to talk to us about the next phase of the music business. And so everybody's in the office and they're saying, well, what could this guy be talking about? And I'm wondering, why is everybody all like in this panic? And this guy comes in, and I'm sitting there. I peek my head in the room. Guy comes in, and he says, listen, I need everybody to listen up. I said, everybody open your ears. I want you to listen to something. He grabs a disc, and he drops it on the table and says, you hear that noise? Yeah. And everybody's like, what's that? Why? Yeah, why is he? He said, listen up, because you won't hear it next year. We're like, what are you talking about? They're like, what do you mean? He's like, you'll never hear that noise again. And we're like, what? And he's like, yeah, there's this thing called the internet, and there won't be a need for any physical music distribution in this way anymore. And everybody's looking at each other like, what is he talking about? Long story short, we all know the history of that. That was the Napster team, and at the time they sued him. He went away, but then there's hundreds of others, right? So I was a part of that disruption, and I vowed at that time, and I lost my job 6 months later. I vowed at the time, if I ever saw a place or a fork in the road in a career path, and I saw innovation was going to be the future, I'm no longer going to stay a part of the problem. I'm going to jump ship and jump into this innovation side. So I left the music business, had to reinvent myself. I got into commercial real estate. And when I got into commercial real estate, I was like, wow, this is interesting. I'm used to adding value to assets, which is real estate, right? Bars, lounge, restaurants, retail. I'm used to that side of it. But I was like, wow, everybody asked me to join these brokerage houses, and they said, wow, we love it that you have this innovation with you. You have this marketing, you have these other things that we can offer our tenants and our landlords. But when I got to commercial real estate, they said, nah, you're just a good salesperson. We love you as just the guy that can sell ice to Eskimos, and we just need you to just keep the cookie cutter system going on we have here. We love that you think out of the box, but we need to keep you right here in this wheelhouse.
I hear you.
I said, man, ain't this something? They told me, they hired me because of my innovation and I said, but they really saw my sales ability, and they said, all right, let's bring this guy in. Let's just churn and burn. So I said, fine. I'll deal with it. I learned the industry. I learned commercial real estate, ins and outs, retail and office leasing. I became a specialist there. Representing tenants has always been my core DNA, tenant and brand development. And so about 5, 6 years ago, I had enough. I said, I can't do this any longer because I have a lot of tenants who no longer want to do 5 and 10 year leases. They want to do this thing called a pop-up. And everybody's like, what? And I'm talking to all the brokers and they're saying, and I said, that's what's happening in retail. I said, but there's this other phenomenon going on called co-working. And I'm telling my team and they're like, yeah, this co-working thing is really picking up and WeWorks. And then I did a bunch of other deals with sister and brother type of industry niches that fit the co-working model. I did something called Psych Works with psychiatrists that are doing the same thing with co-working, right? And so I saw the niche and it was growing and I'm sitting there saying, isn't this interesting? The office space business, my book of business is growing exponentially, but the retailers, the smaller SMBs, they can't figure out what to do next. And every time I talk to them, they say, Jay, don't call me anymore unless you can show me how to make money in this physical space. Don't lose my number, basically. So I said, I vowed at that moment, I said, my core DNA is helping small businesses grow.
Yeah.
Like my peers call me a small business hero. I just love entrepreneurship. I love creating something that has been unseen. It's unseen before you birthed it into the world. I believe in that. And I believe in creating something that leaves a legacy. So I've always been about those core principles. And so every time I met an entrepreneur, I'm always like, tell me your story. And the minute they get to their friction points is when I dial in. When I get to their pain points, it's like I go in. And so what I decided to do, since my brokerage company would not allow me to help them with any kind of ancillary advisory services, I said, I have to cut the cord. And I left. And I vowed that I was going to create a technology company that was going to solve for the majority of the friction points that retailers face, brick and physical retail. So that could be restaurants, it could be restaurants or retailers in that capacity. And so what I did next was I hired and I brought on partners that were retail thought leaders in the space. And the reason I did that is because I didn't want to be a software company first. I wanted to be an advisory group that built software solutions. So it didn't come from, and this, it's not about we built to spec, we built to market, right? And I said, no, we don't build to market, we built to pain. See, my team, we built to pain. Like, fuck that market shit. We build to real life applications that people are facing right now. And so we built the guest platform, which is the technology platform that we say powers the future of retail. What is that? That's a very broad term. It's really combining what I feel is the only way for us to survive physical retail. And that is to streamline the partnerships between property owners, retailers, and brands. Okay. And that's essentially what we do. So we track for performance using our platform for brands and retailers that are on consignment, that want to sell goods at physical retail, for brands that have never been in physical retail. They come on our platform, they find a retail host that's complementary to them, and they can do a deal, sign a license deal once a month. That's like the office space. They can send their goods. They don't have to come physically. They take a shelf, they take a table, they take a window, they pay a fee. They receive 80 to 90% of their MSRP that's sold in that space. The retail host receives the rest for his commission. And now they have a deal. And they do that throughout our platform. So we can have we have over 2,200 brands on our platform looking for a retail home. And so I like to tell people that we're really like an Airbnb for retailers and brands to connect.
God.
Okay. And that is the first product that we created. And it really gave transparency for a brand to be in Europe or Australia or anywhere, never touch physical retail and say, I'd like to sell goods in Soho. I can find a complementary retailer and I can test in that site for a season, see what kind of traction I develop there, and stay or leave. However, the guest platform allows me to see my sales daily and my weekly, and the guest platform makes sure I get paid. One of the things that retailers weren't, if you know the industry, or people that are dialing in that know the industry, I know that, it's built off of wholesale, and it's also certain consignment deals go left because they're like, all right, pay me back 30, 60, 90 days with zero transparency into what's going on in the space, what's happening, what's the activity.
Yeah.
And so that was our first model. And that's when I realized, what was our true value? Our true value was a transparency, the performance analytics that showed you that you what's your return on that investment. And I look at it very similar to what Facebook does. You buy an ad, basically you pay as you go almost. If you got this many impressions, that's how much you're paying for, right? That's where physical retail is going. And so we essentially want to become the bricks to clicks effect. We show that, if you pay for this bricks, we can also show that your e-commerce sales will go up this much or that much. And those are things we're solving for now.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, no, sorry, but I know
I usually stop people, but I was kind of like really enjoying the conversation. So congratulations on that. And
you know what, Mustafa, and that was the first product. Yeah. The second one, it gets better because remember, it's streamlining partnerships, right?
True.
Retailers and brands was the one you just heard. Then COVID hit. And I said, wait a minute.
Okay, that was my second question. So that's it. You're on it. So how you're
I know where you're going. I told you we're going to keep it short, sweet, keep it tight. So what happens when COVID hit, I started getting a lot of calls from tenants that said, look, man, Jay, I'm not paying April's rent. I'm not doing it. I paid March. I shouldn't have. This COVID shit happened. No. What do you think I should do? I was like, well, send a letter to your landlord. Tell them you can't afford April. I started getting other calls from landlords. Oh, what the fuck's going on here? We're getting all our tenants sending these letters saying they can't afford the rents. I said, yeah, sounds like I see a big storm about to occur. Yeah. I could see it coming because I was in the middle. Sure. And we had done some deals with some major REITs where we'd done these things called percentage rent deals.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I asked my team, Alex, I asked my partner, I said, look, man, you know how we provided clear verification to the brand on their sales at the retail level? Could we switch the brand and make that a landlord just so that they can become partners on the space instead of charging a fixed rent? They can now charge a revenue share deal where they get a piece of the sales just to weather the storm right now, because the retailers and restaurants can't afford to pay fixed rents. And they also might not be able to pay anything up front. They might not be able to pay a rent reduction or anything because they don't know what type of foot traffic or what kind of, where the COVID, where it's going right now. The market's down. I said, but they can weather the storm if they become partners. Essentially, you'll be reading all about it. Open up the news. Percentage rents have become what everybody wants now. All the tenants, every restaurant that you see who's only at 25% capacity, they are doing percentage rents. They were talking to their landlords about percentage rents, or they will actually go out of business. And so remember when we started this, I said the core DNA to our company was, how do we help businesses retain their business and then prosper? So the retention, we're like a retention platform for the landlord, because they want to give concessions, but they don't want to give concessions unless they can see what's going on.
Okay.
You see, so you can't give a concession to a tenant that's hitting it out of the park. And you're like, well, I gave you a concession and I see a line down the block. So what are your sales? And it's not to say that landlords don't trust their tenants. However, if there's a third-party verification platform that comes into play, everybody can actually play in the sandbox the right way. So we have a lot of our lawyers calling us. They say, Jay, you guys are like auditors. I say, no, we're not. We're referees in the sandbox.
Okay.
We're making sure that they all get along. It's transparent. There's no, I got to trust you. You got to trust me. You got to trust the data.
True.
Okay. And that's essentially where we fit. And so some people call us a third-party verification platform. Some people call us, matchmakers in a way, and partnership. We help the partnerships stay amicable. So we're working on a lot of things now where we're doing pop-ups and tracking the performance of pop-ups, just so that the property owner, if he knows the tenant's doing well, he can actually say, hey, I need to share an amicable lease with you because I want you in here long term because you're doing well. Now, if he's not, then they want to go both ways, in either way. But right now, I feel between 20 and 21, you'll see more and more of these conversation of percentage rents. The MTA just announced yesterday they're doing 10% gross deals, which essentially is 10% revenue share to all their tenants just to keep them there.
True. So which brings me to my last question, primarily because I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure we can talk on this
No,
an hour, but we'll do that in our longer workshops. So these podcasts, we keep them within 12 to 15 minutes. So this one, but we'll do a proper workshop with you. This much I promise we'll do. I'm really enjoying it. So I'll bring in my CTO and we do that once every 3 weeks. So my last question, as a founder, as a CTO, since at Gaper, we're very big advocates of remote work, right?
Right.
So as a founder, as a CEO, you have to wear multiple hats, from sales to looking after the team health to customer success, everything.
Correct.
What 3 productivity hacks have you used during COVID to navigate better through that? Because founders are supposed to be workaholics. For them, prior to COVID, go to office, work, come back home, switch off. But now it's work from home. So the teams are feeling the burnouts because of the founders. So what have you done in order to navigate through that?
What's interesting is that I try to mix it up. So I'm in a home office right now. That's where I am. I mix it up a little bit. I try my best to break up my day where I get out, because I call this the Zoom room. You can kind of stay in this Zoom dungeon for like ever. So I get up and I'll, do some push-ups, sit-ups, or jump, whatever, and get out. Then I leave. But then the key, I feel, is always creating the North Star in front of you. Like, whatever that North Star is, and if that's your goal, your strategy, your objective, or your roadmap, I like to call it the playbook. Keeping that center in front of you, and then making sure you relate that to your team is how I feel will weather, especially startups, will weather this storm. Because it might be a little rocky, but if you can keep your focus on the North Star and actually make sure your team understands the vision of the North Star, then I think we can kind of make it. And I also believe in cool happy hours or camaraderie. There can't be all conversation about business. There has to be what else makes your employees or your partners tick. If you don't have that conversation, I mean, it's not as meaningful, man, because we're like 24/7 in this bubble. And it's not realistic that we don't come up for air to talk about personal matters. I think it really matters that we do that. And I think that as human beings, we don't want to live in a total homogenous society. So we need to make this as humane as possible.
True.
And so that's really how I get around it, because my team, I do a lot of outreach, but I also realize that we're touching base with each other about business. But I'm dealing with a person that's also affected by what's going on with COVID and everything else. And so I think there's a certain sensitivity that we have to have about human nature, the political environment around us right now,
Yeah,
what's happening, like it's real. I call it, it's real shit,
I get that. I get that. I hear you. For this, Jay, I'm sorry I have to cut the podcast off because my
Hey,
marketing team
fine.
gives me like 15 minutes. They've been,
It's
but
good.
but thank you so much. Take care of yourself
Yeah,
and
you too, man.
all the best with guests. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, no, you too, man. All the best with Gaper, and we'll touch base.